So I imagine after this week's episode of Blade the Immortal, there's gonna be some changes in opinion on people who may have been either indifferent or just outright disliked Rin as a character, but you gotta give mad props to what she was able to pull off in this week's episode, crossing the gates, getting through something that would most likely 909 times out of 910 times would get someone killed. She shouldn't be able to pull this off, especially with how much she struggled up to this point, but you have to give credit where credit is due. Pulling from real emotional trauma and then memorizing someone else's little sister, learning the history, and using your own experiences to fake it until you make it and believe who you actually are. This episode really highlights why she is so important to the story. I said it last week, she's one of my favorite parts to Blade the Immortal. Remove Rin as a character and this series wouldn't be able to flourish. She wouldn't have that character who isn't numb to this world, who actually does feel pain and regret and makes mistakes in the face of all these trained samurai professionals. But to see the determination in how far she went, literally getting her stomach cut to make it look like she had a C-section, make it so she memorized this person's sister in less than a day and made that story so believable was incredible. I wasn't sure what I wanted out of this episode. Like, as it was starting to get going, I was interested for sure, but I wasn't sure what this episode needed to do for myself. And to see the direction they took it, I have to say it's exactly what I didn't know I wanted, but exactly what I actually did want. I like the idea of just seeing her kind of go on her own and kind of distance herself from the people who have been basically protecting her and actually taking action into her own hands. There's only one person who can pass through that gate, and it's going to be Rin, but even so, she'll probably die when she attempts it. There's got to be some hand-holding, right? Someone's like Manji or someone like that has to guide her, right? That's what people would want to say before this episode, but no, she takes action into her own hands. And the build-up to get to basically an aim that kind of has gotten a lot of people through those gates until, well, one girl got her head cut off and that kind of stopped everything from happening. It was interesting to see that build-up and how she's wanted. There's posters everywhere. Everyone knows what she did with this man. Of course, we know that wasn't who actually killed all those men, wounded a prostitute. It was a scumbag. However, when you're kind of surrounding all those bodies, of course, there's obviously someone going to get blamed. There were survivors who ran and fled for their life. Of course, they absolutely know who the hell is going to get blamed and not the actual killer. So it was actually quite interesting to me to see the build-up and the resolve, because once I started realizing what Rin was trying to do, I was on board with it. I thought that was interesting. I thought that would be a really cool character moment, but I'll be honest, I was expecting her to fail. I was 100% expecting her to fail. And this is coming from someone who really likes her character and hasn't been saying she's useless or things like that, like I have seen some people on the internet claim. But to see just how far she was willing to go, dropping mad stacks of money towards these people, saying, name your price. I will make sure that I pay. This isn't just some random person, but these people are so scarred from their last attempt to help people that they got someone killed. And she drops the poster by their feet saying, hey, if you're worried about just some dumb girl getting killed, I already got a hit on my head. It won't matter if I die. Still, there's obviously the risk for their inn. It will get shut down again, but still, it was that back and forth is what I love. I love those moments where you have a character who helps people get to a safe destination, but obviously has to, be secured themselves, either with money or goods, but also has that emotional trauma to not want to try it again. It's just a really solid character moment, and I wasn't totally sure what the hell was happening in that bath sequence because she came in with a knife. I'm like, well, okay, I guess she's gonna kill her, and then she was perfectly fine. So that payoff with the whole C-section scar was amazing. I did not see that coming. I was actually expecting her, when she was starting to disrobe, she would just have natural scars from just being beaten and things like that. But to actually see that she was the reason, like she literally got herself cut, not deep enough to kill her or really hurt her, but enough to make it look like it was real, was kind of amazing, I have to say. Something I really like about that kind of guard sequence where, you pass the initial gate, that's kind of the easy shit. But then you have these characters who aren't idiots, right? They know the history of this man, even if they like him on a personal level. There's rules, and new rules are coming into place. You have to have a lot more documents and things like that. But I guess because we just announced it today, we'll let you go, but I need to question it. I like how they weren't just dumb anime characters, where it's like, oh yeah, we're buddies in the past, so we're just gonna say, hey, even though we know you broke the rules before, we'll just let you go. They actually interrogated her, and it was uncomfortable. This was a dude who led with an iron fist. He wasn't an idiot. He wasn't afraid to ask the hard-hitting questions. He brought up the documents of who she was posing as and was completely fine with bringing up touchy subject matter. If this was the real character as she was portraying herself as, there'd be some heartbreak there. And just at first, you're like, okay, she's doing well enough. You expect at the very least she could handle basic situations, right? Normal questions. But when they started to get into the more emotional subject matter, that's where it actually took an interesting twist for me. The idea of pulling from her own turmoil, something that, unless you experience the loss of family, there's no way she would have been able to fake those tears unless she was a professional actor, which she's not. So the idea of how they were replaying such a horrible scene from what we've already seen before with her family as she was telling this story, which was completely different, was incredibly touching and completely heartbreaking, and how she was naturally building up those tears. Those weren't fake tears. What she was saying was fake, but the things that she was thinking of as she was talking was completely real, and that's why it was so easy for her to show her vulnerability. And I thought, okay, that's going to be good enough. But the fact that she brought up children and he wasn't going to let her go until he saw, yeah, it's scummy. I was like, oh man, is he going to rape her? Is he going to, what's he going to do to violate her? And the fact that she owned up to that and just disrobed and said, hey, here's my scar. And he had nothing at that point. Even though he looked at this man, the dude was sweating. He was always touching. He's like, oh man, he was nervous. He was a nervous bastard. There was no reason to trust that this was actually his wife's sister. However, with the maturity, the realism with her emotion, and how she showed no flaws to that story, it could just be that this dude's nervous because, well, the last time he tried this, he got a girl killed. So maybe that's why he's nervous, because clearly she can't be lying if she was able to do this. There's no reason to doubt it. With the scar, the story, the emotion, there is no reason to doubt that Rin isn't this girl. And that's kind of amazing. That's actually one of the most exhilarating things I've seen in Blade the Immortal past any of the action. And that's not me shitting on the action. I know there's people who do that. I actually like the action in the show more often than not. Not always. Sometimes it is a little iffy, but there is a lot of solid action set pieces. But the idea of realizing, should she get found out, she's probably going to get killed right then there. She's not a professional warrior. She can't take on a bunch of men. She will die. But she used the thing that she has above them, her emotional wits. She knows how to use her emotions, use her intelligence to outwit men who just think with an iron fist. And I love that. And I love how this leader wasn't just a blind idiot who was just like, oh, it's a crying girl, that's good enough. Well, she mentioned kids, show me the proof. Yeah, was he a pervert? Absolutely, but it doesn't change the fact that he said and did intelligent things for a gatekeeper. This is exactly who you'd want to run your gate. If it wasn't for Rin being a badass actor, she absolutely would have been found out. Obviously, this man's probably not going to be trying this again anytime soon after seeing how hard he almost fell on his own sword, and if it wasn't for Rin being just a total badass, he would have been found out, and everyone would have been screwed. The little end sequence afterwards, though, when she's basically unwrapping her lunch, seeing how there's still money left over, I thought was a nice little touch. Now, I may be misinterpreting this situation, but to me it kind of showed that, these characters, they respected what Rin was willing to do to go to this length. She offered them a shit ton of money, but they didn't take all of the money. They took half, and I thought it was interesting how it was such a weird way to end the episode, but I thought it was so perfect because it showed, after everything that's happened, they could have easily took all the money. They could have easily just sent her on her way, left for dead, but it's after everything, it just felt like they kind of redeemed themselves. The last person who went through those gates ended up dead and they had to watch the head roll. But this time, it didn't happen and they even got paid for their job. It's just such a weird but perfect way to wrap up both their story and this current little Rin story and send her off on her next destination. That's what really makes me enjoy Blade the Immortal. It's I get up here every week and I know there's only a very small cult following watching this adaptation. I know it doesn't please a majority of the manga readers, and maybe for some of the new anime originals, they feel like the pacing's iffy. But to me, it's this feels like a strong-paced episode where it introduces an idea, it slows it down, and then explores the idea with such an intense sequence that wasn't surrounding action, but just characters talking, one of which who is lying through her teeth, and the other realizes that this is probably bullshit, and then ultimately has to accept that it can't be bullshit if she just pulled this. That's why I've really enjoyed this series, that even with missteps that it may take from time to time, the stuff that I enjoy about this adaptation of Blade the Immortal is that the pros for me outweigh the cons tenfold. I just love this series. I love how old school it feels, yes, it doesn't move around as maybe a lot of modern TV productions for anime, but this is something that feels like it was pulled from the 90s. And yes, maybe people don't want to say, well, that's an excuse for not animating as much as I'd like to see, but in general, anime doesn't move all that much. It's typically still frames with mouth flaps and things like that. But yes, do they hold on to a lot of background shots where nothing is moving? Absolutely. And is that because they are struggling with production? Probably. But to me, it doesn't bother me. I love how this world just sucks me in. It makes me glued to, I don't care if I'm staring at a goddamn pot in this world as I'm hearing characters talk. It's just, there's something that just clicks with me. And I can understand if it may not click with everyone, but for me it does. I just really enjoy it. And, you know, I'm actually surprised that it's not super low rated on like tracking sites like Kitsu or My Anime List. Because typically with a series like this that has a cult following, which hasn't pleased a majority of manga readers, typically I'm used to seeing a pretty low score. But right now it's actually doing pretty well, which is maybe there's more people enjoying it than I haven't really realized, and it's just a vocal minority who aren't enjoying it. I don't know, but you know, this was a great episode. I thought last week really got back onto the right track. This week, even slightly better for me. But then again, maybe I'm the odd one out. Maybe this episode completely sucked for a lot of people, or you're feeling exactly as I am. Whatever you are feeling, do let me know down in the comment section below, because I thought this was a really interesting episode. Voice actor, you gotta give major props to Rins, because I bought into this. I was like, yep, just let the girl pass. She definitely is not lying, even though I knew exactly what happened with their character. But whatever you're feeling, do let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also subscribe if you have been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.